Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer, and this is Outer Wilds. In today's video, I figure I just go through and answer some fan questions that I've gotten commented under a lot of my videos. And really, they're just simple questions that people might be confused about or mix things up, and I really do like helping people understand the game better, and this will do a great deal to do that. So, let's begin. I guess the first one doesn't really help you understand the game that much better, but I do find it interesting. They ask, where do the anglerfish originate from? And I have touched on this in the past. I've asked the developer straight up, and they responded, not from the dark bramble that we know of, but it could be from one of the planets the dark bramble system devoured in the past. Or they could originate on Ember Twin, which once had an ocean. And that was their response. And I personally like the anglerfish from Ember Twin theory, but I know it's a little up in the air, and it's much more likely they came from a planet Dark Bramble once devoured in the past. Not our planet, not the Dark Bramble we see, but the Dark Bramble system as a whole, which is comprised of many seeds like the ones we see on Timber Hearth. It's going to grow into another bramble, and they're all connected. So that's how they would have migrated to the one we see. The next one I also touched on in the past, but it's long ago and it's a pretty simple one. So how do the Hearthians survive the ghost matter explosion? And this is a pretty good question. It turns out that we can go to Giant's Deep to see for ourselves that water negates the effects of ghost matter. We can cross through the whole tunnel filled with ghost matter if it's submerged underwater. And it turns out that the Nomai discovered the species of fish that we originally evolved from in a pond of water. So at the time of the ghost matter explosion, we were still a fish species in the water that then evolved into the creatures we see today. So we were in water, that's how we survived, which I'm glad we did, because now we have a game. And the next question is also actually about ghost matter, and it's how did ghost matter get into the stranger? It's all sealed off. How did it get in? And really, the answer to that's right in its name. It's ghost matter. Now, when it's in its gaseous form, it seems ghost matter is able to move through certain objects, sort of like radiation does. We even find it in like caves and weird places that we know were completely sealed off at the time of the ghost matter explosion. So we know that ghost matter can move through objects just like a ghost can. Also, very quickly, someone asked me how the Alks survived the ghost matter explosion, and the fact was they were dead long before the interloper ever came to the system, so they didn't. Now, I thought this one was a pretty decent question that could probably easily be missed, but they asked, why did both the Nomai and the Alks end up coming to our solar system after they tried to find the eye? And the simple answer to this is the eye is in our solar system. The Nomai tell us that the eye is in a very distant orbit around our sun. So anyone that comes to try to find the eye is automatically going to come to our solar system because that's what it's in. Hopefully, I can clear this one up for the more casual fans. Were the Alks and Nomai ever in the solar system at the same time? And sort of unfortunately, the Alks died to enter their simulation way before the Nomai ever arrived in the solar system. So as far as we know, they weren't able to meet or interact or study each other or anything like that. They're totally separate. Their stories are separate. There's no connection between the two, which is kind of disappointing to some people, but I get it. That makes sense to me. And next up is something that kind of disappoints a lot of people too, which is why have the Nomai never found the stranger? And the answer to that, really easy, is the invisibility cloak. The way the Nomai search for things would have been thwarted by the invisibility cloak. They use signal locators, which is essentially the same thing as us pulling out our signal scope and looking and, not getting the stranger's signal. And the other thing is, they can't fire their gravity cannons up or down. They can only fire them straight in the plane of the solar system. But the stranger sits high above the solar system, so there's no way for them to point their cannon up there to even have the chance to get the stranger between it and the sun, the shuttle and the sun. So they literally never even had the chance to find the stranger. So, to make the answer short, it basically just flew under the Nomai's radar. Now, this is a pretty big question in the game, and I might not have a certain concrete answer, but I think I can give a pretty good one. And the question was, why do the Alks hate the eye so much? Now sure, it's a given that anything that you think might kill you, you would probably dislike, but they have a deep hatred for the eye, and they're wondering why. And I think It's because they placed so much faith in the eye. They thought the eye was going to be some great thing, so much so that they risked their entire planet in an interstellar journey to find it, to gain some knowledge, something from it. And they received nothing. They actually gave up stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense for me that if you gave up something to go on some grand knowledge quest, and then at the end of that quest, you actually didn't learn anything, that would probably be something you hate as well. So I think that makes sense logically, and that's probably why they hate it so much. One of the big questions that I normally get about Outer Wilds is why the hatchling doesn't just tell everybody that they're in a time loop. And really, the hatchling does tell 2 or 3 people that they're in a time loop or something weird is going on. We tell our friend Hal that the statue opened its eyes and started glowing all crazy, and, they think we're medically not okay to go fly. And we also tell Slate a couple of the ways that we die while we're experiencing our time in the time loop. And they just, write it off as some normal conversation. They don't believe us. So the short answer is really, people think we're crazy if we tell them that. Gabbro tried to tell Hornfels, and Hornfels told them they dreamt it all, and they need to go relax before they pass out from talking too much. So really, it's just in everybody's best interest if we don't tell them. And the fact is, even if we did tell them, it'd be pointless because in 22 minutes, it'd all be reversed anyway, and they'd have no recollection of it. So it makes sense mechanics-wise, in the game, why they wouldn't waste time having you tell everybody for, no payoff. And they'd think you're crazy. So that's it. Now, this one is sort of 2 questions in the same sort of vein, and it's, who is the 3rd statue for in the Ash Twin projects? And what happened to Dawes' statue? And if you remember, Dawes is the Nomai that actually did sync up with the statue, but that wasn't when the time loop was active, so their memories never got sent back. So although they did connect with the statue, it was just a test, and the Ash Twin projects itself, or rather the Orbital Probe Cannon's tracking module, which tracks the Orbital Probe Cannon's probe and, its path through space, and if it found the eye. So they had to send that information back from the beginning, so there was always one statue activated. So once Gabbro and us connected with a statue, that equals 3. So the 3 statues at the Ash Twin projects are connected to us, Gabbro, and the tracking probe module of the Orbital Probe Cannon, because that information always had to be sent back. And I thought I'd answer the last question and save it to be a nice question. So the question is, if the prisoner's actually underground, how is it that we can see the ringed planet still outside their window? And I think this is pretty touching. Apparently, even though they were a prisoner, the other Alks cared about them enough to put in the simulation their own mini ringed planet for the prisoner to look out of their windows and maybe even see with their telescope, which I think is actually really nice. You don't usually show your prisoner that much sympathy. So I think that's pretty touching, but that's about all I have for you today. So hopefully you all enjoy it, and hopefully it cleared up a few things for some people. Thank you so much for watching. As always, a special thank you to the members here on the channel, and a huge shout out to the subscribers here on the channel. Only 17% of the people who watch this channel are actually subscribed, and just a simple click to that subscribe button really does help. So thanks everyone who's done it, and if you haven't, well, maybe do it now. This is the Lore Explorer. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.